Most people are wrong about short-term rentals in Sun Valley right now. So in this video, I'm going to walk through the real numbers, what works, what doesn't, and whether buying a short-term rental makes sense in 2026. We'll take a look at regulations, high-level overview of the short-term rental space in Sun Valley, and then I'm going to dive in and perform an actual analysis on an active listing in Ketchum to see what your monthly costs would be. So this video will be for investors looking to buy in Sun Valley or Blaine County with a budget of $500,000 and up. People are open to data-driven decisions and thinking medium to long term, so 3 to 7 years plus. This video is not for anyone that wants a vacation home that just pays for itself, anyone expecting strong monthly cash flow, and buyers who don't want to deal with seasonality. It's a very seasonal market here. So essentially, if you're looking for a cash flowing Airbnb, this probably isn't your market. But if you're thinking about long-term ownership with some income to offset the costs, this is where it gets interesting. All right, so let's take a walk through the short-term rental launch guide. This is more geared towards regulations and specific things that you need to get your listing going. This won't cover things like cleaning and photos, but essentially I want to touch on new bill that just got passed, HB 583. This essentially strips away all of the permitting and a lot of, if not most of the regulatory hurdles required to launch a short-term rental, so an Airbnb or Vrbo. And the bill passed so that cities and counties can no longer treat short-term rentals different from any other residential use. So essentially it restricted a lot of the things that governments typically do. So there are, starting July 1st, no permits, fees, or registrations required for short-term rentals. There's no mandate for professional management or additional insurance or even density caps, proximity rules. So the barrier to launching a short-term rental in the Ketchum, Haley, Blaine County market and all of Idaho, the barrier to entry has been reduced pretty significantly. A few of the things that do stay in place, thankfully, are fire extinguishers, carbon monoxide detectors, escape ladders, smoke alarms, sales and lodging taxes. That will always still be there. So really pretty basic levels of regulations there. And then quick snapshot. So Idaho sales tax, you'll hit a 6% sales tax, 2% for travel and convention tax. And then if you have this in Ketchum or other cities, you'll see something similar. You'll face a 1% tax there as well. So steps for going live, short-term rental, you want to make sure that it's okay with zoning as well as your HOA, any other condo association rules. Those still exist. So those, if you're prohibited from having a short-term rental in your HOA, the Idaho state law doesn't matter here. So check that. Register with the Idaho Tax Commission for paying that sweet tax. Make sure that you have installed the safety equipment, the permit if you're doing this right now. If not, I would suggest waiting till post July 1st, and then you cannot pay the about $600 permit fee. And then you do the fun stuff, take photos, buy all of the furnishings, set it up, and list them on Airbnb, Vrbo, and then your own direct website. And make sure that you're maintaining ongoing compliance. Sun Valley has a lot of different reasons of why you would want to have a short-term rental here. Just the key top ones, we've got amazing skiing and an incredible summer. So it's a pretty seasonal market. We have a lot of people here for the snow and a lot of people here for the dirt and rivers and forests. So high level of what we're looking at for launching and why you might want to have a short-term rental here in this marketplace. So now what we'll do is transition over to a high-level view of what the market looks like in Ketchum for short-term rentals. So I use a tool called AirDNA. This gives me, it's a ton of data points and all the different short-term rentals in the area. And you can do this all over. We can see here up towards the top, we have 60 active listings. So it's dropped 10%. So I see that as an opportunity. And that happens every year. There's fluctuations. So we'll click into this and we'll see, during the shoulder seasons, people take homes off the market, and during the high seasons, people put them back on to rent. So pretty common, nothing crazy there. I also like to look at listings by rental size. So if we're investing in the market and there's no 2-bedroom homes in Ketchum, that might be something that we want to look into. There's people that would want to stay in 2 bedrooms or 1 bedroom, solo travelers or couples, etc. So this is just a very high level. There's a lot of different data points that we can jump into. Annual, typical revenue, average daily rates, that sort of thing. And we can see the shoulder seasons here and what's average listing revenue here. So very, very high level of the market here. What I'd like to do next is take a look at a specific listing that's on the market right now. Let's figure out, what will this make us? What will this cost us if we were to go and buy this property, convert it to an Airbnb, and rent it out? So shifting over here, I have a listing pulled up. This is a condo on South 2nd Ave in Ketchum. It's in a pretty cool apartment complex. There's a pool, hot tub. It's a 2-bed, 2-bath. And this one specifically is neat. I actually held an open house here a couple months ago. You have the ability to lock off one of the bedrooms and baths. So if you wanted, you could even diverge this into two listings, 2 1-bed, 1-bath listing, or keep it the same, which I think is a pretty neat and honestly a great way to run an Airbnb, is to have those options. Anyway, we have this property, this condo. It's going for $715,000. What I do, and I do this for my clients, I've done this for my own investment properties, and it has paid off pretty well, is I'll go analyze this in AirDNA, and I will run comps and say, well, what are other similar units renting for? And what can I expect to make, generally, if I'm a good host, which I am. So this I already put together. This is the same unit. And what I did was pull in comps, so similar types of properties. And this tool understands what they're making, nightly, monthly, yearly. And so I can look based on the amenities. I'm going to look at other listings that have pools, hot tubs, if there's AC, that sort of thing. And location is really important. This area, River Run, will be different from Warm Springs. So I pulled in all of the different comps, make sure that beds and baths align. We have a similar amount of people staying, that we don't have any listings with really poor reviews or are just being listed for 2 weeks out of the year. So right now I have a pretty high confidence level in my comps that indicate, all right, well, if we did buy this, we could be making about $56,500 a year, 51% occupancy, the average daily rate, $304. These aren't concrete, but these are pretty good estimates. And the properties I've bought, I've done this with 3 of my own investment properties. It's been pretty close. So it's a great tool to use for these types of projections. All right, so now that we have this info, what we'll do is go over to I have a tool on my website, colinburkerealestate.com. We will go to the tools section, and I have a mortgage calculator, but more importantly, we have a short-term rental ROI calculator. So we want to plug in the different stats, the things that we pulled, to understand what will this make us. All right, so I just went ahead and plugged in all of the numbers here. So it's a pretty neat calculator I have here. I have basic and advanced if you want to get more into the specific additional costs involved in setting this up. But all I did is pull this information from both the listing and from AirDNA. So we have purchase price, down payment, closing costs, rehab, so about $20,000 for any sort of maintenance and furnishings and linens. Interest rate, 6%. This is actually, I think, about 6.33 right now is the market rate, 30-year loan. And then this we're pulling in from AirDNA. So we're estimating 304 nightly rate, 50% occupancy. We'll plug in platform fees, 3%. I'll assume that I'm self-managing, adding in HOA fees, property taxes, annual insurance, cleaning costs, and then average stay length, and then throw in CapEx monthly here. And so what the tool will do is say, okay, here is what your anticipated monthly revenue is, just a peanut butter spread over the course of the year, monthly expenses. So as I indicated, this market isn't a market you invest into cash flow short-term rentals or cash flow investment property. It is a market that allows you to buy a home in an amazing place with world-class skiing and offset it with short-term rental capabilities here. So we would see that the ability to own this property would cost you about $775 a month. So to put that into perspective, renting something comparable here during peak season, so during ski season or July, August, that could run you about anywhere from 5 to 10,000 a month. So if you're actually going to use this property, the math does start to shift. And again, if you're trying to maximize cash flows, probably isn't the deal. But if you want a foothold in Sun Valley and you don't want to carry the full cost yourself, this is where something like this starts to make sense. The people that tend to win in this market are the ones who buy quality assets and then hold on to them, not the ones trying to squeeze every dollar of cash flow out of it. So that's the key takeaway here. And one thing I'll add, and this part is just as important as buying the property, is actually setting it up the right way. I work with investors not just on finding the deal, but on the full short-term rental setup. Everything from helping source the property to design, furnishing, and getting it fully live and optimized. Because in a market like this, execution is really what determines whether a property performs or not. So if you want this calculator that I've used to run the numbers, I'll link it below. And if you're looking at buying property or even thinking about buying out here, reach out. I'm happy to run the numbers with you and help you think through whether it actually makes sense.